The snow fell silently on Boulder, Colorado, that Christmas night in 1996, blanketing the ground in soft white. The Ramsey residence stood 3 stories high, an elegant Tudor home at 755 15th Street, adorned with twinkling holiday lights, the warm glow of a perfect American Christmas. But inside the house, just hours later, something unspeakable would shatter the illusion of peace. By the morning of December 26, the festive home would become the most infamous crime scene in modern American history. JonBenét Patricia Ramsey, just 6 years old, had gone to bed on Christmas night after a day of celebration. A striking child with golden curls and an unsettling maturity on stage, she had already taken part in several beauty pageants, glittering dresses, makeup, routines practiced until perfection. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen herself, had ushered JonBenét into the world of competition, of cameras, of adult scrutiny disguised as childhood dreams. But none of that glitz mattered anymore. At 5:52 a.m. on December 26, a panicked call echoed through the Boulder Police Department. It was Patsy, breathless, on the verge of hysteria. "We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. There's a note left and our daughter is gone." The operator tried to keep her calm, but the line abruptly went dead. Within minutes, officers arrived at the residence. Detective Linda Orant, the only officer remaining at the scene after the initial patrols left, was overwhelmed by what she walked into, not a crime scene, but a circus of confusion. Instead of a lockdown investigation, the Ramsey house was full of people. Friends had been called. Family members milled about. Coffee cups clinked, footsteps echoed. Potential evidence was being destroyed in real time. The supposed ransom note had been discovered by Patsy on the staircase, spread across 3 pages, an unusual length for a kidnapping demand. The letter was handwritten on paper taken from inside the house, using a Sharpie found in the kitchen. It demanded precisely $118,000, eerily identical to the bonus John Ramsey had received from his company just weeks earlier. That figure wasn't public knowledge. Whoever had written that note either knew the Ramseys intimately, or had gone through their personal documents. Even stranger was the note's language, theatrical, inconsistent, and riddled with phrases lifted straight from action films. "We are a small foreign faction," it claimed. "Don't try to grow a brain, John." It was riddled with contradictions. Sometimes formal, sometimes sarcastic. A kidnapper's note should have been direct and chilling. This felt like a performance. Meanwhile, there were no signs of forced entry. No broken windows. No muddy footprints in the snow surrounding the house. Nothing to suggest an intruder had crept inside that night, nothing except the horror that was waiting beneath the surface. 7 agonizing hours passed. The Ramseys complied with police requests, on their terms. They agreed to a limited search of the home. Officers combed through the house but didn't go into every room. They didn't check the basement thoroughly. Then, at around 1:05 p.m., John Ramsey, accompanied by a friend, decided to search the basement himself. That's when he opened the door to a small, windowless room used for storing wine and Christmas presents, a room police had overlooked. There, sprawled on the cold concrete floor, lay JonBenét. She was covered in a white blanket, as though tucked in for a final sleep. Her wrists had been bound above her head with a nylon cord, her mouth sealed with silver duct tape. Her eyes were closed, as if trying to block out the terror of her final moments. Around her neck was a garrote, crafted from that same nylon cord, fastened to a broken handle of one of Patsy's paintbrushes, likely taken from her art supplies in the basement. It had been twisted tight, embedded into her skin. The intent was unmistakable. Whoever did this wanted her to suffer. An autopsy would later reveal that JonBenét had suffered a violent blow to the head, a fracture that ran 8 inches across her skull. The injury likely rendered her unconscious. But she wasn't dead. Not yet. The garrote had finished the job, strangling her slowly. Her death, according to the coroner, was the result of asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. A murder planned. A child tortured. JonBenét was 6 years old. The basement room where she was found showed no signs of a struggle. No blood. No smeared footprints. The killer, or killers, had taken their time. And just like that, the tone of the investigation changed. Detectives began questioning everything. The note, the lack of forced entry, the timeline, and most of all, the Ramseys themselves. Patsy and John had reportedly not searched the basement before police arrived. Why not? Why hadn't they opened that one room where their daughter was clearly placed with care, as though someone wanted her to be discovered, eventually? To the public, the case was grotesquely magnetic. A murdered child beauty queen. A wealthy, photogenic family. A home that should have been safe, violated by darkness. The media pounced. News vans camped outside the Ramsey home for months. Talk shows ran wild with speculation. Every smiling photo of JonBenét in her sequined dresses became another layer in the haunting mythos of the case. Theories exploded across the country. Some believed an intruder had broken in, possibly hiding in the house before the Ramseys ever returned home from their Christmas party. Others believed it was staged, a kidnapping gone wrong, a cover-up fueled by desperation and fear. Patsy and John Ramsey appeared on television pleading their innocence, while their legal team worked overtime to shield them from further questioning. Their reluctance to cooperate with police in the early days added fuel to the already raging fire of public suspicion. Every moment of hesitation became a headline. Every lawyer's comment was dissected. And then there was Burke. JonBenét's 9-year-old brother had reportedly slept through everything, the chaos, the panic, the discovery of his sister's body. Some speculated he knew more than he let on. Others saw him as an innocent bystander caught in a storm far beyond his understanding. But the Boulder police were already divided. Incompetence, infighting, and inexperience plagued the early investigation. Evidence was lost. The scene had been contaminated. And once the Ramseys hired high-powered attorneys and private investigators, the official inquiry started to collapse. A beautiful little girl was dead. Her body brutalized. And the very people expected to bring justice had no idea where to even begin. This was only the beginning. By the morning of December 27, 1996, the nation had a new obsession, and her name was JonBenét Ramsey. News anchors barely paused between headlines as her smiling, pageant-clad image flooded the screens. Dressed in rhinestones and fake lashes, striking poses with the confidence of a seasoned performer, she looked less like a victim and more like a porcelain doll frozen in time. And that, perhaps, is what made her murder so haunting. This wasn't just another tragic crime, it was a riddle steeped in glamour, privilege, and something far darker than anyone wanted to admit. The Ramseys quickly became the focal point of a media hurricane. They were grieving, yes, but detached. Defensive. Legal teams were retained almost immediately. Media advisors were brought in. PR statements were crafted. While the police struggled to keep control of a leaking, botched investigation, the Ramseys were strategizing, calculating, always appearing one step ahead of law enforcement. From the outside looking in, that felt suspicious. Just days after JonBenét's murder, John and Patsy appeared on CNN with a strange urgency. Patsy, dressed in black, leaned into the camera with hollow eyes and trembling lips, urging the public to keep your babies close to you, there's someone out there. But the Boulder police weren't so sure. They weren't looking for a stranger. They were looking at her. Forensic handwriting experts were brought in to analyze the 3-page ransom note, an anomaly in and of itself. Most kidnappers don't leave long-winded, handwritten letters at the scene. This one was written on notepaper from the house, using a Sharpie from the house, and took up an entire legal pad. It was written with time, composure, and an unsettling degree of flair. The FBI found that to be highly unusual. According to behavioral analysts, kidnappers do not linger. They come in, take what they want, and get out. Whoever wrote this note was comfortable in the house. Too comfortable. Of the 3 family members in the home that night, only Patsy's handwriting raised red flags. Experts found similarities between her natural style and the note's blocky script. Still, no official match could be made. She passed one polygraph, administered by her own legal team, and failed another. The data was inconclusive. And inconclusive, in a case like this, meant impunity. Boulder's police force, unused to high-profile homicides, found itself drowning. Evidence was disappearing by the hour. The note had been touched by multiple people. The basement crime scene had been contaminated. And the house itself had been released back to the Ramseys before it was properly processed. Even the autopsy report, released days later, opened up more questions than answers. It confirmed the cause of death, asphyxia due to strangulation. It detailed the 8-inch fracture on her skull, believed to have occurred at least 45 minutes before she died. But no clear murder weapon was ever recovered. There were signs of vaginal trauma, subtle but suggestive. A wooden paintbrush handle, part of the garrote, had broken into multiple pieces. One fragment was still missing. Where did it go? Tests revealed that JonBenét had pineapple in her digestive system that night, suggesting she'd eaten shortly before she died. A bowl of pineapple was found in the kitchen with her brother Burke's fingerprints on it. Burke, just 9 years old at the time, claimed not to remember anything from the night of the murder. He said he slept through the entire ordeal. But others weren't so sure. In 1999, a grand jury was convened in secret. After a year of re-examining the case, the jury voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey, not for murder, but for child abuse resulting in death, and for helping cover up the identity of the killer. The documents were sealed. The public never found out, until 2013, when a local newspaper successfully sued for their release. The grand jury had wanted to prosecute. But Boulder's district attorney declined, saying there wasn't enough evidence to win in court. It was a decision that shattered the remaining public trust in the system. As months turned into years, the police chased dead ends. False confessions poured in. Psychics offered visions. Tip lines were flooded. Everyone had a theory, but no one had proof. The Ramseys moved away, taking Burke with them. They stopped answering questions from investigators. Every public appearance was filtered through lawyers and media consultants. In 2003, a significant development nearly shifted the case. Trace DNA, unidentified male DNA, was discovered on JonBenét's underwear. It didn't match John, Patsy, or Burke. It didn't match any of the investigators. The Ramseys seized on this as proof of their innocence. But forensic experts pushed back. The DNA was minuscule, possibly transferred during manufacturing, storage, or even packaging. It didn't prove the existence of an intruder. It proved that contamination, even on a microscopic level, was a problem. Then came 2006. 10 years after JonBenét's death, a former elementary school teacher named John Mark Carr confessed to the murder. He was in Thailand at the time, under investigation for unrelated charges involving child pornography. Carr claimed he'd been with JonBenét the night she died. He called it an accident. He claimed he loved her. The public was stunned. But Carr's story quickly fell apart. He didn't know details that weren't public. He said he had drugged her. No drugs were found in her system. His DNA didn't match the unidentified profile on her underwear. The case against him collapsed, and he was never charged. The damage, though, was already done. By now, the Ramseys were living in Atlanta. Patsy had been quietly battling ovarian cancer. On June 24, 2006, she died at age 49, never knowing who killed her daughter, never being formally cleared, either. The suspicion never faded. Boulder police reopened the case in 2009 with renewed effort. A new team of detectives was assigned. Advanced DNA testing was introduced. But each lead ended in the same frustrating conclusion: close, but not close enough. And Burke Ramsey? Now an adult, he remained largely out of the public eye, until 2016, when he gave a rare televised interview. His demeanor was unsettling. He smiled at inappropriate moments. He dismissed questions with strange phrasing. It reignited old suspicions, old theories. Yet to this day, there is no evidence tying him to the crime. No charges have ever been filed against any member of the Ramsey family. The murder of JonBenét Ramsey had become a modern American myth. Not just a crime, but a cultural event, a tragic spectacle fed to the public like a never-ending broadcast. And the central question remained maddeningly unchanged. Who killed JonBenét? Years passed. Then decades. But the case of JonBenét Ramsey never truly faded, it festered. Boulder moved on. The Ramseys moved out. But JonBenét's story was never buried. It resurfaced in every tabloid headline, every armchair detective's theory, every late-night discussion that began with "what really happened in that house?" And though countless crimes have horrified the nation since, few have ever held the same grip, because this case wasn't just a tragedy. It was a blueprint of every nightmare: a child murdered in her own home on Christmas night, her killer never caught. Theories multiplied like a virus. Some clung to the idea of an outside intruder, a shadowy figure who slipped into the home unnoticed, killed the child, and vanished without a trace. They pointed to the broken basement window, the unidentified male DNA found on her underwear, and the eerie, partial boot print near her body. But those clues, while compelling, always stopped short of revealing a real suspect. The DNA? It was so minimal, experts believed it could have come from packaging at the garment factory. The window? Investigators discovered it had been broken long before the night of the murder. And the boot print? Never matched to anyone. In short, the intruder theory raised hope, but not answers. Others turned their attention inward. The Burke theory gained renewed traction in the 2010s. The suggestion? That a 9-year-old boy, perhaps in a flash of rage, struck his sister, possibly over a trivial argument, and the parents, panicked, staged the crime scene to protect him. This theory was sensationalized by a CBS documentary in 2016, which included expert reconstructions, forensic recreations, and a panel of specialists who concluded that Burke's involvement was the most plausible explanation. Burke Ramsey, now in his late 20s, didn't take kindly to that conclusion. He sued CBS for $750 million, accusing them of defamation. The lawsuit was settled quietly, with no admission of wrongdoing. Still, the damage was done. Public suspicion, already sharp, now had fresh fuel. But even that theory has holes. Could a child, any child, construct a garrote? Could he plan, stage, and maintain silence under the weight of national scrutiny? Could two parents pull off an elaborate cover-up, lie through decades of media interviews, grand jury hearings, and polygraphs, and carry that burden until the grave? It seems unthinkable. And yet, so does every part of this case. Because nothing fits. Every path leads to a locked door. Every clue seems to crumble under scrutiny. Even the most basic timeline is contested. JonBenét was put to bed after attending a friend's Christmas party. Patsy claimed she found the ransom note hours later on the stairs. Yet her daughter's body, tied, assaulted, and strangled, was inside the house the entire time. Her own father found her, covered in a white blanket, at the bottom of a pitch-black basement staircase. And what happened next? John Ramsey carried her body upstairs, cradling her broken form. In that moment, the scene was contaminated beyond recovery. And perhaps that's the moment, if there was one, when the truth died too. In 2008, a major shift occurred. Boulder's district attorney, Mary Lacey, made a public statement officially clearing the Ramsey family of involvement, citing newly advanced DNA testing that further confirmed the unknown male profile. The Ramseys are no longer considered suspects, she said. It was a landmark decision, but it wasn't shared by all investigators. Many on the original team disputed the exoneration. They argued that a partial DNA profile on clothing, especially one that may have been transferred by manufacturers, shouldn't clear anyone. The science wasn't wrong, but the interpretation was debatable. The debate never ended. In 2021, renewed hope sparked when authorities announced plans to use advanced genealogical DNA techniques, the same methods used to capture the Golden State Killer. Public interest surged once more. Would the technology finally crack the case? Could a relative of the mystery DNA holder be traced through family trees and ancestry databases? The answer never came. As of today, that DNA profile still hasn't yielded a match. Meanwhile, the Ramseys have continued to insist on their innocence. John Ramsey has called, repeatedly, for a new investigation, one independent of the Boulder police, whom he accuses of bias, negligence, and corruption. He's begged for full DNA database access. He's demanded accountability. But time is cruel. Witnesses die. Memories fade. Evidence degrades. And the girl at the center of it all remains frozen in that 6-year-old smile. There is no justice. Not yet. What remains instead is a legacy of institutional failure. A crime scene mishandled at every level. A family scrutinized to the brink of collapse. A public so obsessed with the case that it turned into spectacle. People profited. Networks built documentaries. Authors released books. Pundits carved careers out of speculation. And beneath it all, forgotten, sometimes it seems, was JonBenét herself. She was 6. Her world was one of glittering crowns, dance routines, and talent contests. Her life, short as it was, became a stage. Her death? A permanent show. And maybe that's the greatest horror of all. JonBenét Ramsey never got to grow up. Never got to graduate. Never fell in love. Never got answers. Her final moments were spent alone in the dark, her breath stolen, her body discarded like something disposable. No arrest has ever been made. No definitive suspect has been named. And yet, millions still whisper her name like a question. JonBenét. It lingers in the air, unresolved. Heavy. Haunting. The house on 15th Street still stands. Stripped of its original number, renovated beyond recognition, but it knows. The walls remember. The basement still breathes. And somewhere, someone walks free. Maybe it was a stranger. Maybe it was someone she loved. Maybe they're watching, even now, waiting for the world to forget. But we haven't. We won't. Because until the truth is dragged into the light, the ghost of JonBenét Ramsey will never stop whispering through the cracks of that old Boulder home. And neither will the question that won't die. Who killed JonBenét Ramsey? Thank you for listening to Crime Echoes with Lewis. Please like this video and subscribe for more content like this.